They said I threw it all away, that I walked out on a career people would kill for, that I turned my back on brilliance and traded it for something small and forgettable. They stopped asking what happened. Instead, they started writing their own version of my story. And for a while, I let them. My name is Claire Morgan. I am 33 years old, and I live in a quiet cabin just outside Montpelier, Vermont. I make my own coffee. I repair old radios on weekends. I still get invited to family dinners, though mostly out of obligation. I used to be the one everyone pointed to and said she's going to do something big. I got into MIT, top of my class, a future in artificial intelligence and the kind of tech career that draws venture capital like honey draws bees. But 3 semesters before graduation, something cracked, not loudly, just slowly and deeply. I didn't spiral. I just stopped, and no one knew what to do with that. I came back home, moved into my grandmother's old place, started fixing computers for neighbors and teaching the elderly how to use their phones. It was supposed to be temporary, but then it started to feel right, needed, real. That's when I created BrightBox, a simple device, easy navigation, big buttons, clear instructions, a bridge between generations, designed for people who didn't grow up with screens in their pockets but still wanted to stay connected. It began in a garage and grew in the background while the world wasn't watching. But this isn't a story about code or circuitry. This is a story about the moment someone finally saw me for what I had built. Not for the dream I walked away from, but for the one I walked toward. If you've ever been called a failure simply for choosing a different path, stay with me. You are not alone. And if this story speaks to something quiet and strong inside you, I'd love for you to subscribe. There's more to share. And maybe your story is still unfolding too. Brightbox didn't start with a business plan or a pitch deck. It started with a question from Mr. Dempsey, the 76-year-old who lived 2 doors down. How do I talk to my granddaughter without messing up the whole computer? It was supposed to be a 1-hour favor, turned into a weekly thing. Then his friend wanted help, then his wife, then their church group. Before I knew it, my Saturdays were filled with slow conversations and notepads scribbled with login instructions and sticky notes that said things like, "Don't double-click Zoom." But it wasn't just tech support, it was connection. When Mr. Dempsey cried the first time he saw his granddaughter wave back at him on a video call, I felt something shift. Not in him, in me. I wasn't fixing broken gadgets. I was fixing isolation. I was building something worth showing up for. I called it BrightBox because I wanted it to feel like a light switch. Simple, comforting, something anyone could use without feeling stupid. The prototype had 4 buttons: video, messages, family, help. That's it. Bright colors, large text, voice guidance. It didn't look like a tech device. It looked like dignity. I borrowed $200 from a friend to 3D print the casing. Sold my old bike to buy the first set of parts. I built the website myself. I used my grandmother's voice for the system prompts because she had that calming tone people trusted. Within 6 months, I had over 200 active users, mostly in small Vermont towns where broadband was patchy and family even patchier. I partnered with a local library to offer workshops, then a community center, then 2 rural clinics. People started sending thank you letters, handwritten ones. But back home, it was still different. My parents didn't ask about BrightBox. My sister Julia once referred to it as Claire's tech hobby. At Thanksgiving, my uncle asked if I was still tinkering with those grandma gadgets. I smiled and passed the gravy. I didn't explain that the Vermont Council on Aging had just approved a grant to expand our reach to 10 more counties, or that a major health insurer wanted to integrate BrightBox into their senior wellness package. Because in my family, silence was the currency of survival. You didn't brag, you didn't correct, you endured. Julia had always been the golden one, polished, practical. She was a lawyer, engaged to Jack Hamilton, wealthy, articulate, and the kind of man who made you feel underdressed just by shaking your hand. Their engagement dinner was coming up. My mom sent me a dress code. No black, nothing too formal, feminine is best. It wasn't mean, just directive. That's how my mom did love, through control. I wasn't even sure I wanted to go. But then, a week before the party, I received a testimonial video through the BrightBox website. We had recently launched a campaign called Stories That Stay, where users could share how the device changed their lives. This one came from a young woman in a pale blue sweater, sitting beside an elderly man in a recliner. Her voice caught my attention. "This is my Grandpa Harold," she said. "He lost his wife last year. BrightBox gave him a way to reconnect with us. Video calls, messages, even silly gifts. It gave him a reason to smile again." Then she looked straight into the camera. "I'm Julia's future sister-in-law. I had no idea Claire Morgan was the one behind this. If you're watching, thank you." I had to pause the video. Jack's sister, the stranger I'd be seeing in less than a week. She didn't know who I was when she filmed it. She just knew BrightBox had made a difference. And suddenly, that engagement dinner didn't feel like a family obligation. It felt like something else entirely. I didn't RSVP, I just showed up. That Saturday, I wore a deep green dress. Clean lines, no ruffles, no apologies. When my mom opened the door, she looked surprised, then immediately glanced at my shoes. "You made it," she said flatly. "You asked me to," I replied. Inside, everything was champagne and soft jazz and gentle clinks of crystal. I took a seat near the edge of the long table, as always. Invisible, but present. Jack arrived 15 minutes later, followed by his sister, the girl from the video, Amanda. She didn't recognize me, not yet, but something told me that was about to change. The evening moved in slow waves. There were toasts, laughter, the clinking of forks on porcelain, and that soft tension that always buzzed beneath the surface of family gatherings. I smiled when it was expected, laughed quietly when appropriate, and folded my napkin just right on my lap like I had practiced. Amanda, Jack's sister, sat 2 seats down from me, chatting with a cousin about wedding venues. Her voice was animated, her eyes bright, her laughter natural. She looked like someone who didn't carry the weight of family expectations like stones in her pocket. I wondered if she had ever been told she was a disappointment. Dinner was nearly over when it happened. Amanda leaned over casually, her tone light. "So, Claire, what is it that you do again?" Her question wasn't sharp, not pointed, just curious. But the table shifted, slightly, enough for me to feel it. My mother stiffened next to my father, who reached for his wine without looking up. Julia glanced at her phone, as if hoping to distract herself from the answer. I took a sip of water before replying. "I run a platform called BrightBox. It helps older adults use digital tools to stay connected." Amanda blinked. "Wait, BrightBox? That sounds familiar." I nodded. "It's a simplified tech interface, video calling, messaging, reminders, all designed for seniors." Her face changed. The casual curiosity dropped. Her expression turned into something slower, sharper. "BrightBox," she said again, almost in a whisper. She stared at me. Really stared. "No way. You built BrightBox? As in, the BrightBox?" I nodded once, quietly. Amanda's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my gosh," she said, glancing around the table. "You are Claire Morgan, the one who built the system Grandpa Harold uses every single day. He sends me little video messages now. We had almost lost him after Grandma passed, but BrightBox, it brought him back to us." Silence. Not the awkward kind. The reverent kind. My mother's fork hovered above her plate. Julia stopped pretending to scroll. My father looked up for the first time since dessert was served. Amanda kept going, eyes wide, voice rising in emotion. "I submitted a video for your campaign. I had no idea that Claire Morgan was you. This is incredible. You built something that's changing lives. My grandpa never called himself smart until he learned to use your system." The words hung in the air. I felt 100 unspoken sentences pass between me and my family. All the times they had asked if I was still tinkering. All the smirks. All the silences. I looked at Amanda. "I saw your video," I said gently. "It meant more than you know." She stared for a moment longer, then slowly sat down, still stunned. Around the table, whispers began, soft murmurs, glances. Jack leaned forward, brows raised. "You're seriously the founder? That BrightBox is your work?" I nodded again. And then Julia spoke, her voice unusually quiet. "I had no idea." I turned to her. "You never asked." That landed harder than I expected. My voice wasn't bitter, just steady, calm, like I had finally stopped apologizing for being exactly who I was. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. My father looked down at his glass again. But something had shifted. I wasn't background anymore. I was real, present, unignorable. The rest of the evening unfolded differently. People came over, asked questions, listened. Amanda kept glancing at me with a kind of awe that felt foreign. Not fame, not attention, but respect. My uncle, who once teased me for fixing grandma gadgets, now asked if BrightBox could be integrated into his community's senior center. Even Julia looked at me differently, like she was seeing me for the first time, not as the sister who dropped out, but as someone who had done something quietly powerful. It wasn't vindication, not exactly. It was peace. That night, as I left the restaurant, Amanda followed me outside. "I'm serious," she said. "You've built something amazing. I want to help if you're ever thinking of expanding. I know people, and I believe in what you're doing." I smiled. "Thank you," I said. "That means more than you know." And I meant it, because sometimes the loudest moment in your life is not when you shout to be heard, but when someone else calls your name with recognition and wonder. The morning after the engagement dinner, I woke up with a quietness inside me I hadn't felt in years. Not relief, not pride, something deeper, like the stillness that comes after a long, hard rain, the kind that washes things clean. There were no dramatic speeches, no grand apologies, just a shift. Subtle, but enough. My phone buzzed around 10, from Julia. "I'm sorry for not seeing it before. I'm really proud of you." No emojis, no disclaimers. A minute later, another ping. From Amanda. "I can't stop thinking about what you've built. Let's talk this week. I have some ideas." I smiled. Amanda wasn't reaching out because she felt guilty. She was reaching because she believed. And that made all the difference. Later that afternoon, while I was making tea, the mail arrived. Inside the stack of catalogs and bills, there was a single envelope with my mother's handwriting on it. That alone stopped me. We didn't write letters in my family. We sent quick texts and birthday cards with too much glitter. But this was different. It was real paper, folded carefully. I stood at the kitchen counter and opened it. "Dear Claire, I watched Amanda's video. I cried. Not because I didn't know what you were building, but because I realized I never asked. I was too focused on what you walked away from to see what you were walking toward. You did something no one in this family ever had the courage to do. You failed. And you kept going. You built something from scratch, something that gives people their dignity back. I didn't understand that before. I do now." Love. Mom, I read it 3 times. Then I folded it slowly and slid it into the drawer beside the sink. Not to display, not to frame, just to keep, not as proof, but as memory. Because this time I didn't need the validation. I already knew. That week, BrightBox finalized a partnership with the Vermont Public Library Network. 12 more rural branches, places where the internet was slow, but the need was urgent. We added features based on community feedback, a medication reminder app, a secure way to send family photos, a panic button linked to local health services. Amanda and I met for coffee 2 days later. She came prepared, with a notebook full of ideas and a list of contacts from the nonprofit foundation she volunteered with. "There's a grant that fits BrightBox almost perfectly," she said, tapping a page. Social innovation led by women. They love programs that serve underserved communities. I blinked. You really want to help me scale this? Amanda shook her head. No, I want to help people like my grandfather. You just happen to be the best way to do that. For the first time, I let someone believe in me without bracing for the moment they change their mind. That summer, we launched our first statewide campaign, Digital Dignity, workshops in senior centers, training sessions at public libraries, home kits for veterans and isolated elders, free access, full support. Within 3 months, we crossed 250,000 users. BrightBox had become more than a project. It was a lifeline. One morning, I opened an email from a 91-year-old in Montana. Subject: You helped me fly message. Your system helped me apply for a passport. I'm flying next month to meet my great-granddaughter. First time on a plane. Thank you for the push. I stared at it for a long time. Not as validation, but as reminder. Every quiet effort matters. At Julia and Jack's wedding, I wore a navy jumpsuit. No one blinked. My mother didn't comment on my outfit. In fact, she introduced me to one of her friends by saying, "This is my daughter, Claire. She runs a national tech platform for seniors." It wasn't exactly accurate. It wasn't exactly false. But it was enough. Later, she pulled me aside. Her voice was low, honest. "You always walked your own way," she said. "I used to think that meant you were lost. Now I think, maybe you were just walking ahead." King. We didn't hug, but we stood beside each other longer than we ever had, and that felt like something healing. That night, under strings of fairy lights and the soft hum of wedding music, Julia found me. "Next time someone calls you the dropout of the family," she said, "remind them who built something that outlasts titles." I laughed. Next time, maybe they won't need reminding. We clinked glasses, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't outside the circle. I was part of it. Not because I changed who I was, but because I stopped hiding it. 2 weeks after Julia's wedding, I sent a small package to Amanda and Jack's new address. No note in the box, no ribbon, no fanfare. Just a USB drive, carefully padded, and a handwritten card. "Amanda, this version of BrightBox is custom built for the assisted living home where your grandfather spent his last years. Lifetime access, no cost, no expiration, full tech support. Some connections outlive misunderstanding. Thank you for helping mine find her voice." Claire? I didn't tell anyone I had sent it. There was no press release, no credit, just a quiet offering. A circle closed gently, without needing to slam shut. Amanda called the next morning. Her voice cracked as soon as she spoke. "You didn't have to," she whispered. "I know," I said. "That's why I did." That day, I walked down to the lake near my cabin. The water was still, broken only by the ripples of a breeze passing through. I sat on the bench where I used to come when I felt like I was disappearing. The same bench where I once doubted if any of this, any of me, mattered. Now, I knew better. BrightBox had reached people I would never meet, given moments of joy to families I would never know. Not because I had followed the path others drew for me, but because I drew my own. At home, I taped a small quote to the fridge. "They'll tell everyone you failed, until one day they ask how you did it. No signature, no bitterness, just truth." And beneath it, my own reflection in the stainless steel door. Solid, still, smiling. Because this time the light wasn't coming from someone else's approval. It was mine. If you've ever been told you were a disappointment, if you've ever left something safe to build something meaningful, if your journey is quiet, lonely, or slow, I hope you know this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something that matters. The world may not see it yet, but someday, someone will. And when they do, they'll ask not why you left, but how you dared to begin. Thank you for being here with me, for listening, for seeing a piece of yourself in this story. If this journey touched something inside you, I hope you'll consider subscribing. There are more stories to tell, real, quiet, powerful stories, and I'd be honored to share them with you. Until next time, stay kind, stay steady, and remember, your story is still unfolding.